Hey, welcome back to another Inktober video. Today is the prompt JOLT. Normally with these prompts I will go into a little bit about what inspired me to draw this particular scene or this illustration, but for this particular prompt there's quite a bit more of a story behind it. So for JOLT, I wanted to go with someone being jolted or startled. I thought of a kid being called out by their mom, someone being bumped into, or just being surprised in general. I couldn't really get a handle on it though, and I actually left this one to sit, but eventually I thought of something I could relate to. Someone leaning over your shoulder when you're drawing, reading, writing, what have you, and giving you a jolt. So now for a little bit of that backstory. I used to go to the local Barnes & Noble to draw while I waited to pick my husband up from work, just to get a bit of a change of scenery. I was particularly depressed at the time and really just wanted an excuse to get out of the house. I was starting to take commissions, and it wasn't helping that the only things people wanted to buy from me were my $1 quick sketches. Couple that with how I was being treated by some family members at the time, family stuff you don't need the details, I was feeling a bit useless, unwanted, and overburdened. Drawing in a different area sometimes helped clear my mind and just to reset. It allowed me to just focus on drawing and not about who else was in the house or what needed to be done. It could just be me, my sketchbook, and whatever random album Barnes & Noble was promoting at the time. At first, it wasn't too bad. The first few times I went, it was only for about 2 hours or so, but I was able to get quite a bit done and have a moment to myself. I felt productive. After a while, though, it became an unpleasant experience, to say the least. Turns out drawing or doing anything in public that's artistic, at least around where I live, is just an invitation to come see what this person is doing. Like I said before, the first few times it was fine. Nobody really came up to me, nobody talked to me, nobody even acknowledged my existence. But for some reason, the longer I was there, the more I went. I guess this veil lifted that just everyone suddenly knew I was there. If people weren't hovering over my shoulder or just straight up staring, they were randomly sitting down with me to chat about what I was drawing, like I had a tip jar out. You know, looking back, maybe I should have had a tip jar. I even had 1 or 2 guys try to hit on me, and even after dropping that I was married and trying to flash my wedding ring, they just wouldn't get up and leave. I don't mean to sound like a brat or anything. I understand I'm out in public, so it's kind of hard to demand privacy, but I'm also antisocial and I have all sorts of anxiety, so this was kind of my personal hell. There was also this one guy that claimed he was looking for an artist for some project he had planned and thought that I would be perfect for, based on what he could see me drawing just by walking by my table a couple of times. Then I looked down at the books and manga that he's carrying around, and they're all kind of leaning in the realm of like lowly anime stuff. You know, the ones, the light novels and the manga that say, my little sister, this and this and this. And I'm immediately regretting my decision to leave the house this day. He wouldn't leave, and even at one point I kind of tried to ignore him. Granted, I thought this was preferable until he started rambling on about his story. I just want to put in a side point that a lot of what he said actually did sound like he legit had a story idea. He was asking me a lot of questions that seemed like he had plot points and an idea and main characters and even maybe character designs. However, it was just really, I guess, overbearing the way that he was trying to recruit me. There was also the glaring fact that he never really gave me any details about what the story was going to be about. And even after I asked him, he would be like, well, I don't want you to know about the story because I don't want you to steal it. You're not part of the project yet. So at this point, he's asking for a way to contact me, to get me involved, to give me more information. And I really just wanted him to leave, and I figured if I gave him a contact, he would probably leave me alone. He would probably get up and decide to go back to whatever it was that he was doing. So I gave him my DeviantArt page and told him that that's how I handled most of my artistic commissions or any type of artistic business that I was going to be handling. And then he was basically like, I'm not sure if that's the best way to go about this. I mean, this is a serious project. I don't think DeviantArt is the best way to handle this if we're actually going to do business. That's not very business-like. Can you hear my air quotes? Because I am doing them so hard right now. When I told him that I wasn't comfortable giving out my email, he even told me he doesn't have an email, so that's not even how he would want to do this. I think he was trying to get my actual phone number, and I'm really disturbed by that idea. But at the time, it never occurred to me that that might be what he was after, so I was like, well, what else is there? And I guess he was trying to get me to come up with it on my own, so he kind of just stopped asking at that point and just accepted my DeviantArt page and left me alone. I actually never got a message from him on my DeviantArt page, which might be the real kicker there. I honestly don't know what he was after. A little bit of a fun fact, I actually started to recognize his car, and legit, it looked like he was just straight up living out of it. He was still pretty young, and I'm not sure if I ever saw him buy anything, now that I actually try to remember. There were times I would see his car outside, and I would just leave. So that's just one of the instances where I actually drew this JOLT inspiration from. It was a very fitting term for what I felt. Someone just sitting down with me out of nowhere and just starting to talk to me. I tried to be as polite as possible, even when I, quote-unquote, ignored him. I just told him, well, this is a commission that I'm doing, and I really need to get back to it. And I have some things that I need to do later, like pick up my husband, and so I really need to get this done. And he would be like, okay, and then he would just go back to reading. I actually have another Barnes & Noble drawing story that's a little closer to what's actually going on in the prompt. But I'm trying not to discourage people from clicking off these videos when they get too long. And I'm not sure there's actually enough footage to fill the time that it would take to tell both of these stories, so I think I might just save it for another time, especially with how long this video is already going to be. The characters in the illustration are not indicative of the actual people in my story. Hopefully you guessed this because one of them should be me, and last time I checked, not a dude. I actually got all the way through inking this before I realized some major anatomy errors on the dude that's sitting down, and it was just so frustrating because I knew this was going to be a bit of a longer, more of like a story time video, which means that there was going to be a higher chance of people just paying attention a little bit more to what I was drawing. So I ended up just tracing it and starting over. So if you notice something a little bit off with the picture halfway through, that's why. However, because of that, I wasn't able to get as much done as I would have liked elsewhere, especially when I went in with the artist loft markers, which I don't like, by the way, and I'll save that for another video as well. I wasn't able to do quite as much with them as I would have planned, or that I actually did in the first version of this picture. So, yay! Anatomy. It's fun. Thanks so much for listening. If you like this video, you know how YouTube works. Let me do some engagement. Comment down below what jolts you. I'll be back tomorrow with the last prompt, Slice. I already said it's going to be pizza themed, so look forward to that. Bye.